How I rewired myself to be wealthy began long before I understood business strategy, marketing, pricing, or profit. The real transformation happened on the inside, years before the money ever showed up in my bank account. Growing up, I inherited some money beliefs and generations of trauma, scarcity, and fear around money. That's because I was born in one of the poorest countries in Europe. Money was never presented as safety where I come from. It was presented as instability, risk, danger, control, and even loss. My ancestors had their assets taken, their land stolen, their freedom stripped, and those wounds became emotional imprints that lived very deep in my body. I was carrying fears that were not even mine, and I didn't even realize that. I didn't know it for a very long time, and I only knew that every time I got close to earning more, something inside of me will pull back, freeze, sabotage, or even collapse. So I had to rewire myself emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and even neurologically to become a woman who felt safe with wealth, with money, who could hold wealth, who could grow wealth, and who could lead herself with power instead of fear. And that wasn't an easy journey because rewiring myself to be wealthy started with awareness. I began asking myself brutally honest questions about money. These were questions that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. For example, what did my parents teach me about money? What were their fears? What were their failures? What beliefs did I inherit about rich people? All of these questions were triggering, but they were so important. I also asked myself, what do I believe about women who make a lot of money? What do I feel about deserving money? What did my childhood teach me about asking, receiving, keeping, or losing money? Another powerful question was, did the people around me feel comfortable when women had money, or did they resent it? I also asked my question, what was the first emotion I felt when I looked at my bank account? Was money something that felt safe or something that felt threatening? Every answer showed me one very clear truth. My money story was not based on who I actually was, but it was based on who I was taught to be. And until I rewrote those stories, I would keep repeating them over and over and over unconsciously. The second step I did to rewire myself to be wealthy was healing money shame. Money shame is one of the most toxic emotional blocks women carry around money. Money shame says, I am bad at money, or I did something bad and I don't deserve it. Shame makes you hide and it makes you shrink. It makes you avoid the actions that will actually move the needle and take you forward. So shame is extremely dangerous. And I saw shame in my clients' eyes as well when they told me about their debt, or when they told me how they managed their money. And I realized I was carrying my own shame too. Shame for wanting more, shame for earning more, shame for not knowing more, shame for making mistakes. I had to learn to look at my financial reality without the self-hate or the emotional collapse, and that took time. I began practicing self compassion and I started removing the excuses. I asked, how did my environment shape me the way that I am? Who told me wanting more was wrong? And that's weird because it didn't come from my family. It was generational. Who told me the amount I desired was too much? Who taught me that women who make more money are greedy or unlovable or masculine? When I saw that these beliefs were never mine, they dissolved. And this is when shame lost its power. But rewiring myself to be wealthy wasn't just emotional, it was neurological. So you have to know something. Your brain operates on habit loops. You have cue, routine, reward. When I used to think about selling, the cue was fear. The routine was procrastination, and the reward was temporary relief. But in the long term, I stayed afraid and resentful, and I just felt I wasn't unleashing my true potential. I had to rewire those loops over and over again. When I felt fear, instead of avoiding, I decided I will act. When I felt unworthy, instead of shrinking, I raised my standards. When I felt doubt, instead of collapsing, I led myself anyway. Repetition rewires the brain and is actually extremely important. Neuroplasticity is real and it works whether you use it consciously or unconsciously. So I chose to use it consciously. I started pairing new thoughts with new actions. I started learning more, reading more, observing myself more. And the thing is, my beliefs did not magically appear. They were built through daily repetition, conscious one. Another part of rewiring myself to be wealthy involved clearing trapped emotions from my body. Many women think that their problems with money are logical or strategic, when in reality, their nervous system is stuck in survival mode. Mine was too. And I had embodied fear of losing everything, fear of being controlled, fear of being judged, fear of being abandoned if I became too successful. And I carried emotional residues from childhood wounds that I have experienced, and even ancestral trauma, which is something we're not even aware of. So I did a lot of somatic work. I did emotional release work. I did subconscious rewiring, because you can read every wealth book on earth. But if your nervous system does not feel safe with abundance, with money, with finances, you will push it away faster than you can receive it, or you will find ways to spend it. One of the most powerful moments in my rewiring journey was during a hypnosis, when my subconscious revealed a past life or a past experience, an ancestral memory of being enslaved and having everything taken from me. And I watched my family lose their wealth overnight. And this has happened in the history of my family, actually. That stored trauma explained why part of me feared that if I become wealthy, they would take it all away from me. I had this really deep fear, and it influenced how I priced myself, how I invested, how I save, how I showed up in my relationships as well. Once I brought that to fear into awareness, and I realized that it's there, because I never knew that was there until I heard the recording of that hypnosis, I managed to heal it, and my entire relationship with money changed. I finally understood why I could make more money easily, but struggled to hold it. Once the emotional imprint was released, wealth becomes so much safer. Rewiring myself to be wealthy also required disconnecting from a lot of environments. It required me ending up relationship, clearing energies that suffocated me. I had partners whose lack of money created a field of scarcity around me. I could actually feel it. Their resentment, their jealousy, their insecurity about my personal success seeped into my nervous system. And I found myself shrinking and hiding my accomplishments, being afraid to share my success, muting my wins, lowering my prices, trying to apologize for my success. And I absolutely resented this. That is what happens when you surround yourself with people who cannot emotionally handle your success. When I left those environments, it felt like removing massive weights from my chest. And when this happened, my income skyrocketed. The moment my energy became clean again, it actually took just a couple of weeks. Another essential part of my rewiring was shifting from the energy of needing money to wanting money, and then to already having money, because these are three very different energetic states. Needing money is a vibration of panic. Wanting money is a vibration of lack because you don't have it, you want it. Already having money is a vibration of sufficiency, of safety, and abundance. The moment I started operating from I already have it, my energy softened. I could actually feel it in my body. My decisions became much sharper, and my opportunities started to expand almost instantaneously. I also invested differently. I priced myself differently. I led myself and my team in a different way. It's extremely important to know that money responds to the vibration of I am safe with more, not I desperately need more. At one point, during one of my hardest seasons of my life, I had clients leaving, I was closing businesses, some of my relationships were falling apart, finances were dipping. This shift literally saved me. I completely surrendered control. I stopped micromanaging the outcomes that I was experiencing, and I started embodying this abundance even before the evidence showed up. And shortly after, the results started to happen. I started to see the shifts. You have to understand that in my journey of rewiring myself to be wealthy, it meant to shift my energy from just wanting money to actually looking for wealth, because money is just numbers. Wealth is identity, it's energy, it's assets, it's structure, it's legacy, it's time, it's freedom, it's power. And I stopped thinking in terms of income and started thinking in terms of compounding equity, pricing strategies, long-term brand value, personal power, and even having a nervous system that can hold that. I had the capacity to hold that, and elevated emotional intelligence. So I learned that money without emotional regulation leads to absolute chaos. Wealth requires stability, it requires boundaries, it requires identity expansion. I had to become the woman who could hold millions emotionally, spiritually, and even structurally. That was extremely important. And finally, one of the most important parts of rewiring myself to be wealthy was reclaiming my personal power. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's so important because profit is power, choices are power, resources are power. For centuries, women were punished, silenced, shamed, and killed for having power. That history lives in our collective nervous system. It's still part of your body memory. So when a woman rises, she must push through layers of inherited fear. And I had to confront my fear of being seen, my fear of being judged, my fear of succeeding beyond what my family had ever imagined. I had to learn to stop apologizing for wanting more, for striving for more. And I had to allow my ambition to thrive. I had to allow myself to want more without justifying it. I had to practice making decisions like a wealthy woman long before the money arrived. And trust me, it is difficult to do that, but you have to do it. That is how I rewired myself to be wealthy, through self-awareness, emotional mastery, subconscious rewiring, nervous system regulation, through also strategy, having the strategy to support me in that process, because you can't expect motivation and inspiration to carry you through. You need boundaries, you need energy work, and you need the courage to let go of anything and anyone that makes you feel small. Because wealth doesn't happen randomly. It's not accidental. It's not just the natural result of a woman who just goes out there and then she gets it. It's the result of a woman who reclaims her power, she heals her shame, she expands her identity, and makes herself feel safe with abundance and money. So if you love this video, comment below and tell me what part of this story shifted something inside of you. What are you taking for yourself? And if you want to be surrounded by other ambitious women who are expanding their wealth, their healing, their money stories, and building powerful financial futures, I have created a free community where I host live trainings, I share resources, and I create a space for women that can just thrive and be themselves. So if you want to join in, you will find the link below.